Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Madam Secretary, for joining us today. I look forward to reading the report that I think was just released today about semiconductor manufacturing and how the U.S. is going to be involved in that. But I wanted you to be aware that in my district in Arizona, Congressional District 8, will be the home of the new Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing company. And then, of course, we already have Intel in Arizona, but they're investing another $20 billion to expand their semiconductor manufacturing in the state of Arizona. And my question is, what role does the Commerce Department play in increasing the number of advanced chip makers in the United States, and what plans do you have in place, what incentives, and so on and so forth?
Thank you for your question. I know your governor quite well. We worked very well together when I was governor, and you're correct. Intel, TSMC, this is a great thing for Arizona. And it's an example of how we're going to do this. So hopefully the Congress does appropriate the $50 billion that the president is requesting. And that money will be used to provide incentives to companies like TSMC, like Intel, like others, to build more factories in America. We think that's enough money to incentivize the establishment of 6 or 7 more manufacturing operations like the ones you're talking about. I will tell you that will all be done in collaboration with states. So in every one of these examples, probably the governor or mayor or congressional delegation will have to work with us in the Department of Commerce, because the state will have to put some skin in the game. Department of Commerce and the feds will put skin in the game, and then the private sector will do the same thing. And that's how we're envisioning doing this.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. My next question revolves around critical minerals. The more I learn, the more I realize how much of our critical minerals that are needed for, let's say, electric vehicles or offshore windmills or whatever are processed or made in China. And so what role does the Commerce Department have in making sure that the United States is more involved in mining and acquiring critical minerals?
Yes, so I share your concern. I think there's reason to be concerned. Today, the administration released our 100-day report on critical supply chains. Department of Commerce is primarily focused with semiconductors, lumber, and steel. And Jennifer Granholm at the Department of Energy is primarily focused on the critical minerals, along with Deb Holland at Interior. So I don't want to pretend I'm an expert, except to say that we're all working around the table on shoring up supply chains. And you're exactly right. I mean, so many of these critical minerals are inputs into things like semiconductors and batteries, and we have a plan to shore up domestic supply chain.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. My last question is, in May 2019, President Trump signed Executive Order 13873 on securing the information and communications technology and services supply chain. The Department of Commerce is responsible for implementing this executive order and put out an interim final rule in March. My question is, I have 3 questions. How are you implementing the executive order within your department? Who is responsible for that implementation? And did you intend on publishing a final rule? Or do you, I mean?
Since I have 20 seconds and that's complicated, the answer is we are deep into the implementation. And with your permission, I would love to follow up with you separately and in writing with, the answers to your questions.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, and I yield back.